All right, Wednesday, March 13th, 2024, call to order of our regular meeting of trustees. Mary, you're up for roll call.
They're part of the picture up there.
Oh, no, that's Susan. Oh, Mary was too.
That's right.
Susan Brownell. Here. Val Wright.
I'm here.
Gretchen Ross.
Here.
Chris Castillo.
Here.
Carrie Friend.
Here.
We are all present.
1.2, approval of the agenda.
Staff has a recommendation of moving agenda item 9.3, which is the play structure, to information, as we're not asking board members to take any action tonight, but really just give information regarding where we are on the process of procuring and selecting play structure.
That would become. So I'll make a motion to move 9.1 to 7.4. 9.3 to the word.
Information. Yeah.
Okay, but it'd be information 7.4.
Yes.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Trustee Brownell.
Aye.
Trustee Ross. Trustee Ross.
Hi.
Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
And trustee Brett.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. We move to information.
1.3, public comment for closed session items. Doesn't look like there's anybody that was gonna say anything, so we will close, go on to closed session. We are reconvening open session. First up, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 3.2. Mr. Castillo, you can report this closed session.
Yeah, so in section 2.1, the board voted 5-0 in favor of the personnel changes as recommended by staff.
So staff would like to announce that means that Martin Buller is our next manager of maintenance, operation, and transportation, which we're really, really proud of. He is currently watching his lovely daughter run a track meet, so that's why he's not here. But we believe that his years of service and dedication, his hard work, his love of this school as a student, as a parent and an employee and a community member have really shown through. And we're excited about this new chapter and wish, of course, Ishmael the best of luck in Washington with his family.
And then we also took action on a disciplinary matter.
Section 4.1, correspondence. Do you have anything in?
No correspondence.
4.2, public comment. At this point in the agenda, the board welcomes comments on matters of district interest. Is there anybody in the public who would like to comment? Seeing none, we will move on. Section 5.1, regular meeting minutes of February 14th, 2024.
Staff recommends approval of the minutes of February 14th, 2024. And I appreciate you guys letting me leave from home that night due to my family emergency.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Trustee Wright. Trustee Ross.
Aye.
Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Trustee Friend.
Aye.
And trustee Brown. Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Presentation 6.1, associated student bodies.
I'd like to introduce fifth grader from our ASB today, Lillian Aldrett, who will let us know all the activities that are going on and what's happening in the future. Lillian.
Hello, I'm Lillian and I'm here to catch you up on everything ASB has been planning and has already done. In February, the ASB hosted the semi-formal dance themed An Evening Under the Stars. The night began in Miss V's Italian Tirata, aka Cafe. where she and Miss Clement served up pasta, salad, and garlic bread for a lovely sit-down dinner. This was followed by a 2-hour dance party in the gym with GJ and Melissa Bright taking all of our favorite song requests. All of the students followed a fancy dress code and looked amazing. ASB was in charge of all advertising, decorating both the cafeteria and the gym, and leading all the students with foot cleanup afterwards. This February, ASB also led the school in celebrating Kindness Week, sponsored by Peace Kids Fight for Peace. We organized a performance in opening ceremony explaining to our peers how kindness challenge worked and how to engage in specific acts of kindness on a checklist. For this week long event, we joined over 150 million other students worldwide to take part in over 1 billion acts of kindness. Students helped the custodians clean up the laptop and cafe. They wrote thank you cards to teachers and took time at recess to play with someone they had never played with before. We are currently hosting lunchtime intramural sports activities for the elementary students. After lunch recess, we are starting with a basketball tournament that includes 3rd through 5th grades on mixed grade teams. ASB members are on site to serve as referees. Currently, the Blue Bears and Pink Panthers are in the lead. We are looking forward to leadership training with Julie Lavery tomorrow. Julie hosts motivational and team building workshops for preteens and teens. She will be visiting our campus and training ASB members to assist her with the workshops. We are incredibly excited for this opportunity. This March, we organized a dress up spirit with classes such as dress like soccer moms and barbecue dads. Bring anything but a backpack day. The middle school members are also narrowing down theme ideas for their final dance of the year for SNAP. Thank you for having me, and have a great evening.
Well, thank you.
I have a quick question. What are the names of the other teams?
Orangutans,
Or just
Purple Panthers.
That's cool. I like those.
That's
They're all alliteration.
excellent job, Lillian.
That's good to go to your PTA.
So PTA was supposed to have a meeting this last Monday, but it was postponed to this coming Monday. Where they will be continuing to talk about the upcoming big fundraiser, the paint run. So that'll be held on the 30th of May, the very month. We're gonna look that up. But they're planning on some really fun things are gonna be used rather than just paint, the powder, some foam that they've come up with, a swag bag for the kids. Marisol DeSimone in 7th grade won the contest for what's the art that will be on the shirt. And so that's continuing to be, it's in progress. They're looking for, I think they might even be looking for some sponsors for that. But they're ready to go. We're taking it away from Apex this year and trying to do it on their own. So we'll go back to that. So it's really fun. So they're really excited about that. Shout out, they are still looking for volunteers to take on some of the offices on the PTA board, because some of them do have to move on. They've been on, Alicia, for instance, president has been there for 2 years. She has to move on or out of that position. So we need to get somebody else in there. So we need about 3 people. So if you're interested, please call the school and we will send you to the right place. So hopefully you get a couple of people. Anybody out there who likes to do also, they continue to be so supportive of all the field trips that we're taking. So we've got a lot of field trips they've gone to the Monterey Bay Aquarium. So and we're going to San Jose coming up with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We've got a lot of people going, a lot of classes going to the PAC Theater. They've been to the Natural History Museum. They got people canceled, but they'll be going to the Adobe Museum. So they're supportive of everything that we have. We've also got our ASP director, Angela Scardino, who's going to be working on the garden area, the garden boxes out here, putting up a teepee, putting up some arches. And so they're supporting her in purchasing those items for us so the kids can have fun, getting a fun garden area going again. Are there any questions?
No.
Thank you.
Lillian, your presentation was awesome. Don't feel like you have to stay because we know this can be boring for kids your age. It's not, oh, it's not bad if you leave.
Cute. But you are a star. Thank you so much.
I like the presentation. All right, teacher presentation, 6.3.
So we have Miss Sarah Brown. She is our first grade teacher, and she's going to be presenting on some of the amazing learning and also awesome opportunities that they've done in first grade. And we're excited to have her presentation and see these happy, shiny faces that you'll see throughout her presentation. Miss Brown.
Good evening. I'm here to share some highlights that have gone on in my classroom, specifically within the last couple of months. I had the amazing opportunity to attend the Get Your Teach On conference with several of my colleagues, and I want to thank the board just for your support with this. It was an amazing learning opportunity, and I wanted to share some highlights from what I learned from that conference with you tonight. One of the main themes of the conference that the speakers all kept coming back to was just the power of connection with our students and how important that is. True learning can't really take place until we establish those relationships with our students. And so it really just kind of solidified something that I'd started back in January. We're fortunate enough to have an amazing school counselor here, Tara Walker. And she's been training the staff on some different techniques and strategies to use in our classrooms. And so one of the things that she trained me on was to do these community circles in the morning with students. So when students come in, they sit in a circle and we pass around a talking stick. So I have different talking sticks that I use. I have a rain stick that they really like and they can shake it. And we pass it around and we kind of just start with a breathing exercise. So students have been learning kind of how to regulate their emotions with breathing and kind of set the intention for the day. So one of the exercises that we do is a 5-finger breathing. So the students will kind of breathe in and out, and they'll do that on their 5 fingers. And so that's one of the strategies that we might start the day with. We'll go around and share good news, something that they're excited to share with their classmates and myself. And then for one of the rounds, they really like doing a would you rather. So I'll ask them kind of, it can be a silly, goofy question like, would you rather, eat something salty or sweet, or would you rather build a sandcastle at the beach or go fly a kite? And so it also allows the students opportunities to practice their language speaking. And then we learn something new about our classmates and maybe what they have in common. And so that's kind of how I've been starting my mornings ever since January. And I feel like it just kind of goes right back to that power of connection with the students and how important that is. And they really enjoy it too. They like run into the classroom, they want to pick their circle spot. And so it motivates them to kind of start their day in a happy way. So another thing that I learned from the Get Your Teach On conference was really about student engagement. And so this picture that you see on the slide, the person standing next to me is Amy Lemons, and she is someone who creates teaching resources, and she has a blog, and I've kind of been following her on social media since the beginning of my teaching career. And I was really excited to attend her workshop. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about one of the games that I took back to my classroom and we've been playing. But yeah, the student engagement was another theme kind of running throughout the conference. And then meaningful data. We've been working a lot with Ms. Gaviola as well, kind of diving deeper into the data and what it means and looks like in our classroom. And so it's really neat to hear all the speakers present about that and then kind of get together in smaller groups and talk about it and dive into it. So I'll go on to the next slide here. I also wanted to thank the PTA because they sponsored our shirts that we were able to wear during the conference. So each day we had a different shirt. So you can kind of see the shirts that we wore on the first day. And the shirts say you make the whole class shimmer. And so that was really fun. And I want to thank them for their support in purchasing those for us too. Here's another one. Yeah, it was just really an amazing conference to attend, and I thank you for your support with that again. Okay, so this is the game that I was referencing in regards to student engagement. So the game is called Boom Boom Clap, and students work with partners, and they try to be the first to snatch the correct answer. So when I first introduced this game with my students, I handed them their own index cards, and they folded them in half, and they would write the letters A, B, and C on them. And so there's a lot of ways that you can play it. I've used it so far for comprehension checks and reading. And it's really great because everybody participates instead of just calling on one student. And so the way it works is I'll say the question, give them the answer choices, I'll write them on the board, and then we'll say them out loud together. I'll give students a little bit of think time to think about which letter they're going to snatch when I give them the cue to snatch it. But it kind of start out with a rhythm, and so I go, clap, and they have to match the rhythm with me, so they really have to pay attention. So I'll go boom, boom, clap, boom, boom, clap, boom, boom, clap, and I'll go on for a little while, and then I'll say snatch. And then they'll try to be the first one to snatch their correct card. But there's a lot of different ways you can play it. Besides reading, I've also used it for review in social studies. So in first grade, we focus a lot on long ago and today and the activities that were done long ago, and comparing and contrasting with activities that we have today. And so in order to play the game for this social studies review, I had them write the words long ago and today on their cards, and they would decide which one they needed to snatch. So you can see some pictures of it in action. So they're clapping. Zephyr's really excited because he snatched the correct answers. Showing his enthusiasm, and they're holding up their correct cards. So when I've been playing this in my classroom, I noticed that all the students are engaged in the learning, and I'm really excited to use this strategy and game from the conference. Going back to February, we celebrate the 100th day of school in first grade. So on Friday, February 2nd, we did that. We have a lot of activities that we do to celebrate the 100th day of school. I'll go through them in a little bit more detail with the pictures, so we can skip to the pictures. Okay, so this was our ice cream scoops to 100. So we practiced counting by tens, and they practiced cutting out each one of the numbers and then ordering them on their ice cream scoops. These were our gumball machines, and so students had dot markers and they were able to make 100 dots. So they would get one color and dot 10 times of that color and then choose another color, and so we kind of kept track of it that way. The person on the left in the middle, that is Miss Connor, and she is our instructional aide in our classroom, and I'm so thankful for her. She goes above and beyond for the students in the class here at Cayucos, and she is amazing. So I thank you again for your support with allowing us to have instructional aides in our classrooms, because it really does make a world of difference. This game, students were able to arrange cups. They built a tower with 100 cups, and so students had to work cooperatively. We did these in rotation, so students worked cooperatively in groups of 4 to 5, and they kind of thought out a strategy. Sometimes it wouldn't work, sometimes the cups would come crashing down, but they tried again, and it was interesting to see what they came up with. And then this one was pattern blocks. So students had 100 pattern blocks that they were able to make their own design with. And so they worked in small groups and did cooperative learning to construct their pattern block designs. Students also, for their homework, they brought in a collection of 100 items. So the student on the left brought in 100 Legos, and the student on the right was really excited to share 100 sports cards, so his baseball cards. We also celebrated Read Across America, and we had the Cat in the Hat come and visit TK Kinder in first grade. We had a lot of fun activities that went along with that. The students were able to listen to the Cat in the Hat story directly from the Cat in the Hat. They really enjoyed that. We made a cat craft, and students were able to build some cookies that resembled the hat from the Hat in the Cat in the Hat story. There's the Cat in the Hat reading the Cat in the Hat.
Dr. Brusha.
No.
So
That costume.
it's so the Cat in the Hat. My husband actually he dresses up usually every year and comes and reads to the kids. They were.
You did a great job.
So these are the cats that they made.
Oh.
And we're having fun with the Cat in the Hat there. And then students made these little cookies. So we had an Oreo that we broke apart, and then we put those Lifesaver gummies with some frosting in between to make the hat cookies. Yeah, so I just want to thank you again for your support of all the activities and things we're able to do. And I also want to invite you, if you're interested, to my classroom on Friday. So we're going to be doing a little leprechaun hunt at 8:45 a.m. with our buddy class. So Miss Peterson's class will start in first grade, and then students will go around the campus, and we're going to be our learning objective for that day is making inferences. And so students are going to be reading clues and trying to infer where the leprechaun ran to. So if you are interested, 8:45 on Friday, you're welcome to join in the fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing all that. It's nice to hear exactly what's going on. And then also the Get Your Teach, I remembered voting on that. And we heard it went well from Superintendent Gaviola, but it's nice to hear from other people who attended. Yeah, thank you.
It was so wonderful, and it was a great opportunity for us to get to know each other better too, outside of, the work hours of running to your classroom and having a meeting. And Sarah is one of many teachers who have taken something directly from that, and like the next day, because we were there until it was a 3 day, so Monday at like 9:30 at night, we flew in. The next day we were back at work on Tuesday, and they were already incorporating and trying things out. And it just shows the dedication and just like, okay, let's try this. If it's going to be a positive impact for kids, let's try it. And I also want to just publicly say, one of the many things I appreciate about Sarah is all of the things that she just talked about around engagement and experiences take time and planning. And she is always doing that next level thing, whether it's Pirate Day, whether they're looking at the train during Christmas time, the leprechaun, it's always that next level. And those are the things kids remember for years and years and years. And I appreciate that. And I know it's a lot of work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love my job and I love Thank you.
All right, next up, 7.1, board member reports. I'll go first. I have nothing to report.
Exciting.
Well, Val and I, we went to the presentation on the bullying program, which I can't remember the name of. Olveus, and I was extremely impressed with what we're going to be implementing here. I think it's great. And then I am been moving on with my master's in governance class, and so that's what I've been doing.
Then we had 20, the only bad part was we did not expect that many parents to attend. So we scrambled a little bit. It was wonderful
great
for that. Yeah, there were 27 people there. Really a large number for the size of our school, and really engaged parents too. So thank you. Thank you for attending.
I stole your thunder.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry. Well, you did the big, bad and ugly.
Yeah, but that's not school.
Well, that's part of your reporting of your life and.
Okay, if you don't know what the big, bad and ugly is, it's a surf contest. Here at the Rock. And I'm a part of the Estero Bay Surf Club. And what was really interesting is that a number of Morro Bay students competed as well as helped us up at the judges stand. And it's, you know, it's really, it's definitely a community thing, but at the same time, it brings surfers from all the way from San Diego, all the way up to Santa Cruz. Actually farther up, closer to San Francisco. And it was neat to see the students, high school students, interacting with people that they may have never even met before or heard about. And it was a 2-day event. Just excellent, really fun.
That sounds great.
I did the superintendent dinner, which you could have reported on.
I'll let you-
Superintendent trustee dinner, we went over some more ethical issues, challenging our brains about ethical issues, which is so much fun. And I think that's all I have to report.
Yeah, so same. I mean, that's, it's interesting. They just give little what if scenarios. What would you do in this situation? So that's good. Right before this meeting, I went out and looked at the playground again, just to refamiliarize myself with it, what we're looking at down there. And I remoted in the last meeting, and thanks, Mary, it wasn't working well. But I went to a Western Pyrotechnic Association conference. So it was pyromaniacs. It was pretty crazy. People are making their own fireworks and blowing them off. Big stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
My dog would have loved
It'll
it.
be your function next time.
Yeah, it was something.
I went to the CCAC meeting.
Oh, I did
Yeah.
that too.
I was thinking there was something too.
I'm sorry, I just
I
kind
know,
of.
I forget.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
And I love those meetings, so I
They're
don't know how
great.
it's going. I never knew about them, so, yeah, and I just did your little mini report that we
Thank
did
you.
the,
Yes.
I needed something to say.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So.
Right. Were you finished?
Yeah, no, that was it. You talk about fireworks. That's Yeah.
7.2 superintendent's report.
Lillian covered a lot of the things I was going
She
to
was
talk about
incredible.
because she's so incredible. One of the big things is tomorrow's middle school leadership conference. So it is taken after what's called Challenge Day. And kids, the whole goal is connections and breaking down walls of any like cliques or those type of things that can happen on a campus. A dear colleague of mine, we met about 25 years ago in our first year of teaching in the Valley. I went the administrative pathway and she went into activities and has since had 3 children and now does this all over California. So she's here actually setting up in the gym as we're in this meeting, and it's going to be a great day of just team building. Our middle school teachers will be there as well as 5th through 8th grade.
Oh, great.
Yeah, which I think will be great, and just easing that transition of those 5th graders. I'm looking forward to it. It will be really something for them to, and I'm looking to talk to their parents about. So I am sending a little reminder in the morning for the parents just to ask one question, because I think that they're going to get a flood of answers, where we all know in middle school sometimes it's like, it's fine. Like, but I think they're going to get a lot more answers out of their child after tomorrow. So we'll see. And then the only other things I wanted to talk about is that on our newsletter, you'll see that there's some upcoming events here in March, which include looking at our community event, which is the Rotary Masquerade, which is this Saturday here at our school. Rotary has been a tremendous partner with the school and donates at minimum $10,000 every year to field trips and projects. And this is the key fundraiser for that event. So we are thrilled about having that and helping with that. And we have brought back the talent show. So March 27th, we are having a very low-key talent show in the gym. We have 19 acts, but they are very short. It will be roughly an hour. We do have a surprise teacher act as well. And it should be just good, like family fun, honestly.
What time is it?
It starts at 6 o'clock. And it's just cute, really just adorable, kids who have this brave part of them that says, I want to do this on stage, and it's creative and fun. So we're looking forward to that for sure. And then you'll see spring break actually starts the last part of March 29th, and goes, which would be considered Good Friday, and then it goes through the week after Easter. Other things is we continue our partnership with Fitness Works, and they give access to our middle school kids to go and take classes and use the equipment at Fitness Works at PE. And that's been wonderful. It's really funny to see them like 2 days later, because half of them can't walk. So even though they're spry young children, they're like what we would be, kind of sitting down gently, like, which is awesome. We briefly talked about our parent meeting where we had 27 parents come to look at our anti-bullying program, and then also technology and cyberbullying strategies to prohibit that. So that's my report for the day.
Nice. 7.3, middle school, 7 period.
Okay, I'm gonna go up here because we're gonna broadcast the presentation. And I will try not to get into the weeds. Those who know me know I love schedules and planning. So there's a lot of information in these short amount of slides.
Gotcha, you close the door.
There's a lot of information in these short amount of slides, but it does give a picture of something that we are strongly considering moving forward. And we'd like the board's input. This is an information item because it's really, I don't believe it needs to be an action item. We're not changing substantially the job, like the schedule of the year, or times of reporting or anything to that matter. But we are talking about responding to student, parent, and teacher concerns around how our current schedule serves all students. And so last spring we did our LCAP survey, our local control accountability plan. And overwhelmingly, there were comments around access to interventions, enrichment, or GATE programs at our school. And so we started down this journey of looking at what a 7-period a day would give us and our students. So with this, you will see that we also looked at school comparison and how, because we're little, we're not able to do every single thing that a comprehensive middle school can do. But we wanted that lens and said, are there things that we could do to make us a little bit more competitive? We do lose a handful of kids every year to the larger middle schools. Sometimes it's attributed to programs and access to a wider range of programs. Other times it's other reasons, family preferences and those type of things. And then lastly, that really weird 4W420K stands for what would you want for your own kiddos. So the other lens I looked at is, although I am lucky enough to have a sophomore in college and a senior in high school who have done incredibly well in school, I have a lens of, are there other things that I think would be what I would want my own children to have access to? Because those are really things that I can stand on and defend, and maybe make some people uncomfortable as we're changing schedules, and that's not always the easiest thing to do, or learning new things. But is it best for kids? And is it really what we want for our own kids? So that's the other standard I have. It's really a standard I have in most practices. So the 7-period day really is looking at being able to have intervention embedded within our days, specifically related to math. And enrichment in our days, which adds the ability to have activities such as math programs that are accelerated through what's called Khan Academy, which is a nationally known platform for pacing a child and really cool video-based instruction. It also gives the availability of larger scoped projects, things that some of you might remember in school, like History Day, Science Fair projects, speech and debate, and then college and career activities for middle school. So those are really what we're looking at in enrichment. And then last but not least, is there some availability when we look at a 7-period day to have articulated, gifted, and talented programs for our really high achieving students? And what would that look like? So that's what we'll discuss. So in front of you, and then the next slide will have it, if you'd like to click, there we go, it's a little bit easier to see. I know it's a lot of boxes here. But basically what you see here is a 6-week cycle of what's called an enrichment period or an intervention period. So basically in these periods, you're having a 1 to about 6 or 7 student ratio, teacher to student. So it can be very targeted and very specific. I mean, you can't find that in really any other school where you're going to be able to have either math support or enrichment type activities. So if you notice here, you'll see we have our math teachers, Mr. Schofield, our art teacher, Mr. Wade, Mr. Greg's doing a cycle through of what's called the Khan Academy for 6 weeks. That would be basically half of the middle school. The other half of the middle school at that point would be working on their History Day projects, which can look like a dramatic performance, the typical trifold we all know and love, which is actually pretty advanced nowadays when we look at History Day projects, or a website design. So the beauty of this, I believe, and the reason I think this is essential is, yes, I do love history, but also it's the idea of starting and dedicating time to a project at a high level of completion, right? There's not ink marks on it. You're not like whiting out. It's a high level of completion from start to finish with the supports necessary for all kids. And that type of really complete project focus-based learning is essential when kids transition into more advanced classes, either at high school or on to college. In a busy schedule of a regular day, there's a million other things that are happening, right? This would be a focused time. I'm only doing this in this class for this 6th period. And it helps kids concentrate and focus in that area, which would be great.
And this is a 6 weeks?
6 weeks, yeah. So then what you see is basically a flip-flop. Then our History Day extraordinaires would then go into the Khan Academy. The kiddos that were in Khan Academy would go to History Day. And that would be that first chunk of time, the first 12 weeks or so of school. The next chunk of time, and this is all aligned to State History Day competitions, if someone, like I can see Lillian already, I bet you guys could too, presenting her History Day project. They all align to the actual state competitions too, if it was something that a family wanted to do. The next one aligns with the science project. So science projects, there is a state science fair project. They give a theme each year, and then kids are creating these scientific experiments. Again, focused, complete, proud, developed work that they are presenting. It brings confidence and pride, and really, usually when you do a project like that, it's something you always remember. I know Mary and I were talking about our own History Day projects when we were kids, and kind of right there. Oh yeah, this one and this one. And my daughter, who's in college, said she's in a history class right now. She goes, "Oh, I'm reading this book, and Mom, this is like exactly my junior year History Day project. It was like the exact topic around women's rights to vote. She had read 2 of the sources for it, and it was like she had it all set." She's like, "Do we still have that board?" I'm like, "No." Your dad made me throw it out. No. Okay, the next one, then you'll see that flip flops again. Then you have the last section, which is college, career, and community. So this is where kids will, depending on if they're 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, have activities related to their development in community first at 6th grade. So looking at what does it mean to be a citizen and a strong community member, and then have a community-based project that they're committed to. It's that idea of giving back and tutelage around, like really embracing the community. In 7th grade, they would be looking at career exploration. So what are the different types of careers, education around those careers, guest speakers around careers, and in 8th grade, a real college focus, because that's that transition to what classes they're going to take their freshman year. And then as we know, Susan and I, that high school goes so quickly. We both sit and stand here with seniors, and it's like, where did the time go? I cannot believe it. So really having those focused areas of activities in those 12-week cycles. The other part of that, and all of these, is trying to take other variables of child's environment and parental exposure to things like, project-based learning and History Day. Let's do this project, or let's explore science, and leveling this field of activities and experiences which will then open hopefully a wider spray of doors, no matter where you come from. The bottom of this, you can see what that would look like for a student. So basically, cohort 1 of 8th grade, they would have 6 weeks of Khan Academy, they'd have 6 weeks of History Day. They'd go back to Khan Academy with 6 weeks, Science Project, Khan Academy, and then College and Career and Community. One question that came up during our whole process of exploring and working with teachers is that they have done a Khan Academy here before in coming back from COVID. And there was lots of positive things to say about it, and really getting into individual areas because they use specific student data to design lessons and exercises in math, or Excel for those like brilliant math kiddos. But they did it for the entire year. And so there was kind of burnout with that when it was only Khan Academy. So that kind of got Liz and I thinking about what if we were cycling it through, you only had, the 6 weeks and then you're doing something else and then you're going, so it gives kind of that break, but also emphasizes the importance of intervention and enrichment with math. So what does that do? So this is lovely, but what does it do to our bell schedule? It shortens our core classes only by 3 minutes a day. It does shorten our elective period, that 6th period, which is now the 7th period of the day, by 10 minutes. And we did shorten passing period by 1 minute a day, which right now is 3 minutes. But as you can see, the classes are really close, and 2 minutes is more than sufficient to do that. And that was actually recommended by one of the teachers within our study group on this idea. It's like, hey, you can capture back 7 minutes or 6 minutes right there. And it was a great idea. So this is what the bell schedule would look like. The black print is the current schedule. And then we had 2 options, the fuchsia schedule in the middle, and then the blue or bright blue schedule, indigo schedule on the far right. And we basically looked at the positives and negatives around this, and you'll see the big difference is, do we put 3 periods together prior to lunch and then have lunch, then have only 2 periods at the end of the day? And if you go to the next slide, I think I have the staff data. Oh, no, that's not enough. Go ahead and skip past that one real quick. Then we have the staff data and how they felt about that. So you'll notice here that the large portion, which is the orange one represented here, is for the option blue. So the majority of staff had said they felt that option blue was the best. We did have on this slide 2 people who said, let's keep a 6-period day. And then we had 3 that said, hey, let's go with the fuchsia one. We go to the next slide. When we asked staff in general on an anonymous survey, as part of the 7-period brainstorm, we wanted to look at GATE classes. So we haven't talked about that, but it was one of our standing points of looking at, which is that gifted and talented class. You'll see the vast majority of staff selected the option of, I fully support the idea of GATE opportunities in middle school at Cayucos. The other options they could have selected is, I see the value of GATE and in challenging high students, I don't think splitting classes is a good idea, except for math. Or they could have said, I believe we should keep our schedule the same, which only has leveled math opportunities for students. So the vast majority said, yeah, I do think we should try it and see how that works out for our higher kids. And then let's just kind of review how we started all this and what we've done and where we got to this point. So we had the LCAP survey last spring. We went over that data. It did look at adding all these other opportunities, and there's only so many ways you can slice a pie, right? And add these opportunities. Then we started brainstorming what those schedules would look like. Because I mean, oh my goodness, when you start like looking at where the minutes fall and what that looks like and how lunch falls and all of that and nutrition breaks. And then January and February, we started staff meetings. We had scheduled 5 planning meetings. We ended up doing 4 planning meetings. We had 10 different staff members attend. And of that, 70% of the time it was consistent people attending those meetings. We did a staff survey in March. And then today we are with you talking about this and seeing what it would offer. I believe that there might be one more slide. Oh yeah, okay. So really quickly, there's a couple other positive things, or what we call sprinkles. When we looked at this 7-period day and what the elective schedule would look like, we also wanted to kind of address some things that Liz and I thought would be great, and under the guise of a fancy way to say working as a team, which is teacher collective efficacy, which is that there's all this research showing that when teachers work together, there is positive impact for kids. You don't change anything, like I didn't change my curriculum, I didn't change my assessment, amount of time in school, just simply teachers coming together and saying like, Rory, what do you think about this? I'm like, then that brainstorm has positive impact on student achievement. So we thought there might be a way in looking at how we can do that even embedded within this. So what we saw is using our content experts, which would be our single subject credential teachers or our content specialists, helping with some of our elementary in this teaming, because we all share the same kids eventually in their progression. So you'll see elementary support content specialists. We have Mr. Wade working in a 6-week cycle with our 2nd and 3rd grade teachers for a science fair project as well. Obviously, it's a little bit smaller scale. And we would have the amazing Miss Peterson working with 4th and 5th grade in 6-week cycles for advanced writing skills to really boost that area of writing in 4th and 5th grade, so that that step into middle school isn't as great, which I think is wonderful. We would also look at increasing slightly the collaboration time. So we definitely didn't want to say, hey, we all need to collaborate more, we need to work together more, but we don't want to give you any more time. So you'll notice that we're proposing having our early out, which is typically 1:45, move to 1:25. It's 20 minutes. But what happens is, you guys know, at the end of the day, we like walk the kids out, we get everything settled, and then we rush over here, and then it's like already 25 minutes have elapsed, and it's just that kind of little bit more time to really emphasize the need for collaboration. And it works with our state required minutes. Other positive changes, as I said, would look at gate programs, and what that would look like in this new schedule is that 7th grade would have a, oh, did I flip that? I did, I apologize. This 8 right here should be a 7. 7th grade schedule, we would add 7th grade gate history. So they would have their class split so we can meet the specific needs of our grade level students and then our advanced students. And then in 8th grade, we would have 8th grade English language arts. And that's very strategic in looking at that big transition of prepping our 8th graders to have options moving into post high school or any slow high school to have that pathway into the honors pathway. And that's one of those ideas of getting them ready for that transition. Let's see, I think I have covered everything. We are recommending staying with our 6-week elective cycles that we started this year. They have been well received. I think by every angle you go, the kiddos, the teachers, we think it's better because sometimes you kids don't get their first choice, and before it was a trimester then in that choice they didn't particularly like. Now at 6 weeks, kids have been like, oh, it's only 6 weeks, I can do this, I haven't done that, and I'm gonna do this one next time. And it's been really great, actually. And the projects and the effort our staff has done to make these electives more viable and interesting has been off the charts, really off the charts. So, questions, comments. I know that was like fire hose of middle school. Change isn't easy. There will be some bumps along the way, but I do think it is what's right for kids. I do think it's a great opportunity to try some things and really get into how do we do that next best thing here in Cayucos for kids.
I think it's great.
Looks fabulous.
My head spins. I'm trying to think of
Yeah.
do this scheduling and mapping. I think we should go for it.
It's a sickness.
Yeah.
And yeah, no. Oh, wow, yeah.
Students who are struggling. And they're placed into situations where, it could be a test, trial in a sense. Is this going to help them more or less as far as getting individual help?
It definitely helps them more because every day they'll have that enrichment or intervention period where they put a project where it's a 6-to-1 ratio. So it's that really personalized attention. It also helps our special education professional in that right now, giving him a slotted time every single day to check in, to look at how they can support that help versus trying to pull from all these other classes, which is helpful. And then lastly, those same kids in 7th and 8th grade now would be in even smaller classes in history in 7th grade and in 8th grade in English, where it's half the class. So your teacher ratio for your 8th grade English is looking at like 12-1. So you think about that personalized attention you can get in that versus 24-1, which is still a great size. You know, you and I both know, because I'm sure you sat with a roster of like 32, 33, 36 before. So that will help on both ends of the spectrum in English in 8th grade and in 7th grade history. So we can get better feedback also in the writing aspect of history. Yeah.
I think it's needed. So, well done.
Thanks. Okay. I will move back to my chair. Thanks, Rory. Rory, are you ready to go back to middle school now?
I am 7 years, why not?
So we're gonna change the agenda, to a new item 7.4 was 9.3 action item on the playground equipment. And there's no action, so we moved it to information, so. Take it away on the playground.
Awesome. So in front of you, actually, it'll be on the screen in just a moment. Back in October, we looked at the facility survey and looking at the availability of some funds at our school site or school budget to invest back into our facilities. And the most highly ranked one, both for staff and parents and from the board, was the lower field play structure that is over 30 years old. And so we've done some work and exploration in that. And we have a mock-up that is the from Rec West, who's put in a lot of local play structures. In fact, this very play structure, if you're down in the Pismo area, just went in. And it went in that little park that's between, basically, if you go from Shell Beach towards Avila, there's a very nice neighborhood that has a park that's kind of backset from that frontage road. It almost looks like it's a private community park, but it's actually open to the public. They have now the beachcomber there. So not this weekend, next, I am definitely going to go see it in person as well. But the reason, one of the reasons that we're kind of looking at the beachcomber one is play-wise, gives you little slides and big slides, which is great because we still do have some interest at that 4th and 5th grade level on the lower field. It also gives you a lot of mobility with ladders and climbing. It does do monkey bars across, but it actually has the newer ones that are these, so it helps with balance and which is fun.
And what are the poles sticking up?
It's visual.
That's
It's
what I
okay.
asked too.
For,
So it's not for children to
No.
climb up.
yeah,
Exactly what I,
If it's Nina.
that's an accident waiting to happen.
If
Yeah.
you're a child though, and you're looking at those poles and you're thinking,
If I were 23 and looking at those poles, I would have wanted to climb up.
I know, that's like asking for it.
they're just because it's trying to give that ocean vibe. Honestly, that's why it's
It's
there.
it's actually very aesthetically
Yeah.
pleasing.
Is it the exact same one? That's kind of a bummer, because kid, I don't know, it should be a different one.
Which one? What do you think?
Well, exactly the same one, is it gonna be the same here as it is in Pismo?
It is the same one as Pismo, but Pismo's one is, I mean, it's that really a neighborhood park that I don't think many of our kids go to. But yes, it is the exact, well, and for me, I think that would be great to see it in person, but yeah, it is the exact same one. You'll see that it has like the bridge across, which is also balanced. And then it also, the estimate, which is right now around 100,000, although it's 56,000 for the actual the structure, but it's almost double that, if not a bit more now, as they looked at our surface area.
Our surface area is definitely not ADA compliant.
No, yeah, there's some struggles around especially the last 2 winters with the amount of rain and just upkeep that has occurred. I mean, it's just an older area that, anyway, so we walked the field and the whole area with, Nate, who is the rep here, Martin and I. And he's gonna give us a formal proposal with specifics. He's actually had recommended us considering, looking at actually where the softball field is instead of way out where that other location is in the very corner. He was just surprised that we had a location so far away. He didn't realize the history of it used to have a school down there in that area, so it made more sense. And also the openness to the neighbors and out to that water area, and that the softball field and the whole field itself slants towards that area. So when you do have massive rain, you're getting debris, even though there's a curb. He was a little concerned with the fall product, which is like a engineered wood chip. And like maintaining that with massive rain. So he said, you know what, I'd like us to consider, he's gonna render some drawings in both areas. And then even being able to basically put the softball location on the other way out, as an opportunity. And when you look at the softball field, you'll see it has a natural kind of protection to it. So you have the tall trees that are in the state level, and then you have the whole berm of the school right there. The other part of that is it's very closely located to the school versus all the way at the edge. So supervision wise, it becomes a little easier. It is something that Liz told me about 8 years ago when they were looking at replacing our 30-year-old structure. They were considering the two places even then. Yeah, moving it in and trying to see, is there a better place now that obviously the whole school is centered on the south side of the property.
So now this cost also included some swings?
So yes, it does. So the whole swing bank that we currently have would be replaced with new swings. And then it also what he's going to draw up for us in the cost. So I got this estimate about 8 months ago. So you know how that works. Everything goes up in cost. So he'll give me a final estimate of what that would be. Again, the vast majority of it is on the installation and the surface area work, the cement, all the things that are needed to put the play structure in. We will budgetarily, we do have just over $100,000 in our facility fund, so that wouldn't hit our reserve line. We also have a just over $100,000 in after-school program monies, which we are looking at utilizing probably half of that. So it's actually at this point, if it stayed around 100,000, it wouldn't hit the reserve at all. And we'll talk about the second interim later in the meeting. And I'll talk to Siri about it later too. But so we'll just have to look at that once we get the final renderings and all of that. I think the structure itself is probably, people love it, or they're like, it's interesting looking. So I don't know your opinions and feelings on how the structure itself looks. And
I was gonna say, so I didn't realize they were gonna add swings, because I looked down there and that's what there is, a lot of swings. But you're talking about swings being added to that.
yeah.
Okay, and then is the softball field really used anymore? I mean, do people use it? No?
Do they don't play Little League?
Now they're mostly playing more of those.
So Little League doesn't utilize this anymore.
Or
Okay.
about kickball or something. You play that.
They use it PE.
Yeah.
But it also needs obviously some repair. So I mean, it's a kind of a chicken and egg question. Are
So-
people not using it because it's in such poor condition? Or are they not using it just because the other fields have, a greater, I don't know.
I assume if we do move the softball field, then we would incur a cost for the new backboard or backstop and all that.
Yes, we would. Unless we had a wonderful community member who wanted to do an Eagle Scout project. That's how we got one up in one of my communities before. Yeah, it was great. It was like, oh, this is amazing. Dad owned a lumber place. Son wanted an Eagle Scout project. We were like, amazing.
start looking.
Yeah, so right now it's just information,
Mhm.
input, ideas. I don't know how you guys feel about I mean, they have as many options of the look of a playground as you could imagine, really. This one kind of seemed appropriate as we're so close to the beach. But
My only question is again, just the spindly, you don't want somebody to crawl, start climbing up those.
yeah,
It looks like something kids would want to play on, and I think that's the most important
Right.
thing that we need to consider.
How long's the other one been up?
I think Ishmael's estimate was 33 years, but
No,
he
no,
would be.
no, I'm sorry, I mean the one that looks like that.
Oh, I thought you meant
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
I'll take that.
I just,
33 years.
just,
It's only been up to like 2 weeks.
oh.
Yeah, for final project, yeah. So yeah, it's really new. So when I get down there, I'll take some like real life pictures of it too and see where it's at. But they've also done so the same company has done most of the renovations at Dinosaur Caves park there and which has had some good feedback. There's a few other things he's gonna look at in the design that aren't expensive, but in the areas is like a large swing where like 4 kids it's low to the ground and they kind of swing together. Which also helps with mobility issues with a child.
I'm sure it's pretty safe.
Oh yeah, the video, this is my video link.
These are so engineered these days.
Yeah, I agree.
Huh?
Yeah, it looks fun.
I agree.
I mean, they're,
See that going this way.
I did it, say it.
So the rendering that'll come back before we talked about there being a track around the whole area.
Yeah, that's separate.
Okay.
That's, we're seeing if we can actually get, that estimated under the $15,000. Since you have already given permission to do that, if it's over $15,000, we'll go through the board process for approval. But we were waiting for, the rain to dry up a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it looks super fun, but any new one's gonna look fun compared to.
Yeah.
So anyway, it will come back to the board eventually, when we get the formal, estimate. I would imagine it's gonna be, a bit over the 98,000 that was originally there, as he kind of indicated, but we'll see what he says.
Okay.
Timeline, I do want to make this clear, they are incredibly busy. And he had said if we were taking action today, it wouldn't be done till August because of where they're at in installation. So likely if we looked at April or May approval, we're looking at October, November, which is still before a really rainy season.
All right, next up is the consent agenda. Your motion to.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Trustee Ross,
I,
trustee Castillo,
All right.
trustee Friend,
Aye.
motion passes 5-0.
Okay, next up, the 9.1 transportation plan, 2024.
So staff recommends approval of the transportation plan. The transportation plan is an annual plan that is required by California Ed Code to have approved and presented, also publicly viewed on the on our website. And in that plan, it looks at our availability to transport kids and to make sure that we're doing an equitable process for that. It also produces the budget of the district related to transportation. You'll see there was a slight increase last year. I believe our plan had 57,000. And this year, I believe we're right at 67-ish or 67.
67.
67. So
almost 68.
yeah, that's just looking at costs of the employees, costs of gas, because we had budgeted a little under the gas because last year's, remember they built the budget last year, the year basically in June the year before. And then last fall, we had those pretty high gas prices that came through. So our bus route hasn't changed. We are looking at still, as the board had asked, around the availability of one more van or SUV. And so we have someone that's kind of taken the lead on that versus Ishmael, because he was in the middle of that when he left.
I'll make a motion to approve the transportation plan 2024.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Trustee Ross,
Aye.
trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Trustee Friend. Trustee Brown, and trustee Wright.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
All right, next up we have the second interim.
So I know that when we did the first interim, it seems like time is going so quickly. So I won't do it as an elaborate of a presentation. I do think on the handout that you have, which is this one here, the narrative aspect of it is probably the easiest to understand and kind of highlight through. So in our second interim, the end of the story is that we are in a very solid position financially. We'll talk about the multi-year projection in just a moment. Jenny is here from the County Office of Education, and she attends all our board meetings. And she did a vast majority of the work in producing this and did a beautiful job in a very timely manner, and we appreciate that. So you'll see here the following on page 1, which looks at the assumptions or the aspects of computing the second interim, which looks at our enrollment, which really impacts only average daily attendance, our local control funding model, as we are a community funded district. We do have a lower count for what's called unduplicated students, and that is that concentrated funds that the state gives you a bit more money. An unduplicated student would be someone who either fell in the English language learner category, homeless, foster, or low socioeconomic status, but they're only counted one, thus the name unduplicated. So we're at 53, which puts us at 29%, where the few years previous, we were sitting closer to 36 and 37%. That could impact our federal funding and availability of what's called Title I, which typically you'd have to have a percentage over 36% or something close to that. So we'll see what happens. We're right now researching if there's a hold harmless factor there. Basically, if you've been Title I for all these years and then you have a down year, and that happens, so we're still looking at that. Title I funds are $54,000 a year. They help fund our intervention teacher. So it's not a huge budgetary impact, but it would be a chunk of change for sure. The next thing you'll look at, if you turn to page 2, and believe me, we're not going through the whole thing, so don't worry. If you'll look at some of the changes, I actually really like the lower graph, which is the expenditure. And look at the very bottom there, where you'll see, is that my favorite chart? Where's my favorite chart? When you look at adjustments, I think that is it. Oh yes, differences. There it is, third column. Look all the way over the page, Jen. If you look at the differences, it's actually quite impressive. So you'll notice here that we have our board budget as of October 31st, which was at that first interim. Then we have our second interim, and then you'll see a total amount of changes that occurred. That is pretty amazing. So you look at our total budget being close to $5 million. And we have this varying difference of, I believe when you add it up, it's about $89,000. So that is very close to the target you're at. In fact, I was watching another local school board meeting, and the variance was like 9%. And that and their budget was exponentially larger. So I was really happy and impressed around how tight this was. So it just means that as we have now gone through 60% of the year, we are actually quite a bit, like right there on target for the spending we had budgeted, which is great. Then you'll look at my favorite chart. So you turn to the next one, page over, and you'll have a lovely chart that looks like this. It's color coded. Some columns, and it really looks at your here we go. Yes, the bottom line, which is your multi-year projections. So you look at the multi-year projections as of the second interim sits at the very, very bottom. You'll see a magic number of 25.28. That is currently what our reserve is at and in our school district. The board policy is that we have a 15% reserve. The minimum state requirement reserve is 10% for a small district. Is it 10?
It's
Five. Is it 5 and 10? Sorry, 5 and 10. I'm going higher. Look at my fiscal conservatism. So 5% is the minimum required reserve. The board policy is 10%. We're sitting at 25.28.
Wow.
You'll notice though, because our.
Policy 15? I think policy is 15.
I think ours.
That's 15, and then the board approved 10. I think the board approved 10 during. So,
Okay.
So right now it stands at 10.
Okay, maybe that's where the 10 and 15 went, when we went back and forth, okay. But you'll notice that even though it says, oh my gosh, we're sitting at 25%, the amount, because we are such a small budget, 5% is equivalent to the 261,000. The board knows that one placement out of district in an intensive area, for example, for a student, is that 5%. So having a bit of a cushion on that reserve is significant in being fiscally solvent. It's also why we're looking at some of the facilities, though. We're not sitting here in our coffers going, there's nothing we could spend money on, nor should we. We are looking at other things, like, for example, the betterment of facilities for our kids. The next year out, 24, 25, we're sitting at 23.73. So you see that slight decrease. There is a staff increase in salary for all staff members of 2%, which was negotiated last year. And then you also have, obviously, the step-in column that occurs. So it's always, every year is more expensive to employ people. And then 3 years out, although it's always kind of a shot in the dark as you look at things, you'll see at 19%. Again, some of this is a huge difference of all of the federal dollars that have come in. For example, even not just the COVID dollars, but then the additional learning grant monies and all of those types of things coming out completely of the budget. But in all likelihood, they're usually replaced with something, but I'm sure not quite as robust as the COVID money was.
So that's what accounts for the federal dollars going down.
It does.
Okay.
Yes, it does. You'll also see an indirect cost change because the district is able to take indirect cost on large sums of money that come through you're managing those dollars. Those large sums of money are not coming anymore. So it has significantly decreased as well from that 41,000 down to an estimated 5. And you'll just see a little bit of the rising costs of staff, which happens. Okay, we did budget this with, and Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong, were we at 4% or 5% for property tax? 4%. So that is a pretty conservative budget, as the averages at the last few years have been over 5, and even actually 2 years ago it's 7. So that's the averages when you look at over like a 10 to 15 year process. But likely we'd see some increases within property tax too. But we don't want to count any chicks before they hatch.
Yeah, we haven't been having home sales like we have in the past few years either.
Oh, I don't know. As someone who's looking at the market, houses have been selling within 4 and 5 days here in Cayucos for very expensive prices.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Gone.
I had a quick question in the narrative where we're looking at the the capital facilities fund. We have it at 0. And I know that we borrowed against it for building the new, I'm just wondering why reads 0 and not a negative number.
Where are you at?
Fund 25 capital facilities fund, is that what page?
That's the third.
Page 3?
Oh, so
We transferred it.
it's actually the money that we borrowed came from the general fund. So
Okay.
the money that from capital facilities was paid for, a portion of that paid for the new building.
Okay.
And then the general fund, $500,000 was taken from the general fund and then paid for that. So it wasn't a borrowing that, you could categorize it that
Well,
way because you have the resolution that says we're paying back the general fund with developer fees until that $500,000 is paid. But realistically, it wasn't any type of loan because it's yourself, right? It's
Right.
like, I'm going to take $400 out of my savings and put it in my checkings to pay for stuff. And then my goal is to pay back that $400 is really what has occurred there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this will read zero until that's all been put back. The developer fees is put back into. the
Yeah,
general
so
fund.
yeah, roughly $27,000 came in by the end of the year in June. That money was transferred, I believe, in August-ish, September-ish to the general fund. And so basically it accumulates throughout the year. And then every year when we close out our books, we transfer all the funds that are left there while we close out our books in September on the unaudited actuals to the general fund. So it will always, unless a developer comes in and pays and it hits the books between October-ish and now,
Mhm.
it'll look like it's zero. She may always report it as zero because we will never have a fund balance there. It will always
Right.
be transferred to, because then you don't want to like say, oh my gosh, there's $50,000 there when we can't really use it, but we are.
Right,
we
I'm
are
just
utilizing it in the general fund.
and that's reflected someplace in here. I mean, I'm
The budget
I'm just
transfer?
curious.
No, I think that's great.
Because what I'm concerned about is somebody 10 years from now, when none of us, may not be on the board and, being able to see what's going on.
Yeah, so it's actually reflected within our accounting system
Mhm.
that's held on the county level. So under Fund 25, you'll see as all the different amounts come in, like $2,000 to $3,000, $4,000, and the accounts fill, and then you'll see that total balance transfer happen.
Mhm.
In either the close of books in June or at the unaudited actual. So the record is within there. I don't know if there's a chart in here. Yeah, because that's kind of like that's the
Right.
other details of it. Yeah.
Right,
And then the
right.
resolution itself is something that needs to be obviously communicated as staff leave and retire and those type of things. So the resolution is in place forevermore until the $500,000 or there's a change in the resolution.
Was there a tally somewhere so I could say?
Yeah, so through that account, you would basically take record and you'd see all the transfers that have occurred, those lump sum transfers since that resolution. I can do that in a memo to the board though, and give you the tally.
No,
I mean,
I don't
you're
think that's
wondering, yeah.
necessary.
Can we make a motion?
Yes, we do need to approve the second interim. We will receive a letter from the County Office of Education verifying that we're in positive certification again. And then our next step with budget is building our new budget, which will be exciting. It will be pretty tumultuous around here. If you're reading any of the CSBA bulletins or EdSource, every other story is about massive layoffs and cuts. There were 3 today. Anywhere from 30 to 120 teachers, classified staff, because they were funded for years on those COVID dollars. And then the double whammy actually it's a triple whammy, is that you have a projected lower money coming from the governor. There's a gap between the governor's budget and the legislative office of about $32 billion. So there's so much uncertainty. And if you don't release teachers prior to March 15th, you own them. So there's this question of who's going to be right. So you wonder about your budget. And then lastly, during COVID, the state of California gave an exception on attendance funding school districts, ADA, which is they gave them rolling averages. So you could take your highest year before COVID and it averaged out. So those hits on all that attendance wasn't as hard. That ends. So you have all 3 of those things happening. The beauty for us is that we're not funded by ADA. We're not solely reliant on state funding. We're actually mostly reliant on property tax funding. And so that impact you're seeing in that swing isn't going to be great for your basic aid districts like San Luis Coastal and ourselves in Cambria. But all these other news stories, you're just seeing one after another of people trying to tighten their belts or at least be able to make decisions. Because if they don't do it now, they won't even be able to make decisions.
I'll make a motion to approve 9.2, the second interim financial reporting.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Trustee Brent.
Aye.
Trustee Brownhouse. Aye. Trustee Wright.
Aye.
And Trustee Rice.
Hi.
Motion passes 5-0.
If you're looking at the agenda, there's playground equipment, but we already did that, we moved up to info. So now we are with the 9.4 board policy update.
I believe this will be pretty quick. The state regulations, there's an assembly bill that passed that requires an update in our board policy related to having medication to counteract in middle schools and high schools, the opioid epidemic. And that's Narcan in most cases. Scott had already brought this conversation. Narcan is in our nurse's office already, but the board policy wasn't required to be updated. Now we actually, it requires the language to be updated due to the assembly bill. So it's not changing any of our practices, but updates the board policy. And staff will be trained more than the nurse. So we have Natalie, who is going to train Liz and Mary and myself in the administration of that. And that will happen before the close of March. So that will be good. And we are asking to waive the second reading and adopt this board policy change in that language.
Okay, I'll make the motion to approve board policy 5141, the updated version.
I second.
Any further discussion? Trustee Brown. Trustee Brown. Aye. Trustee Wright.
Aye.
Trustee Ross.
Aye.
Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, next up, 9.5, developer fee justification study.
So at the end of last meeting, there were some comments made and questions to King and Associates who had prepared the developer fee study. And so they re-looked at all aspects of our developer fee report, and that's what I resent out to all of you. I have highlighted the changes that were made within that, and I believe there is one additional change too. In meeting with them, they apologized for the errors, and they were quite embarrassed that there were some errors there, and were very apologetic. They did talk about the typos, that none of them had impacted the essential piece of that, which is the qualification around the developer fee. We were still at $388 with a qualifying factor at $3.89. You'll note on the board agenda the tables that were changed and the references to the tables that were changed, which were part of the errors that were, I think, were caught both by Carrie and Gretchen. Because Gretchen, you made a comment towards the end of the presentation. Oh, and then you had also noticed some things around that.
Well, I gave her my paper and looked at
Yes.
my list of questions.
Yes, absolutely. And they worked on it that very night, and actually were emailing me that very night as well as the next day. I do believe, though, there is one other
Yeah.
aspect, right?
It's also on page 8 in the table 3. There was under new construction cost per student, they listed, well, they corrected it now, but they listed as 7.8 is 122,000 and change. And in the weighted average, they used 112. So they just messed up the numbers. Instead of 122,000, they divided it by 112. And I believe 112 is the correct number.
Right.
But that's just glaring.
So because there were multiple errors, I thought the cleanest way to proceed was to
But
put
didn't we already approve
the
it?
corrected one back. It's on public view, and it's in this, so that the corrected form is here. And again, what
Didn't really matter
we're
what it
using.
said. No, it didn't.
So we do
These calculations.
recommend approval again, the report with the corrected numbers.
I make a motion that we approve the justification study with the corrections.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Trustee Friend.
Aye.
Trustee Brown. Aye. Trustee Wright.
Aye.
Trustee Ross.
Aye.
Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Motion passes 5. Okay, this is a lot. This is a lot of work for a little amount of dollars, but they're significant in what they represent. So Title III funds are funds that are allotted for English language learners. So the federal government gives concentrated money for English language learners to help support the needs of that, whether it be staff, additional materials. And so previously our district hadn't applied for Title III funds. So I got contacted by the state of California noting that we did not have Title III in our LCAP addendum. And I kind of thought for a second, oh, someone is actually reading that up there? Interesting. But great, awesome. So they did give us a timeline prior to March 31st that we could add an English learner plan to our LCAP addendum for future funding. And Liz and I talked at length about this, and we explicitly have services for our English language learners. Because we are small, the funding for this is $991. So I wrote the plan because we know what we are doing as a district to serve our English language learners, and felt that it was a support to the plan, so that there wouldn't be a question that we're serving them, not necessarily for the $991. Also because it's a significant group of students to us. I mean, we know each by name and level and need and favorite color, and we love them dearly and felt it necessary to represent that. So I do recommend approval of adding the Title III addendum to the LCAP. Carrie did note on a couple things, just some quick little things. I left out a word or two here and there, and then the feeder program description, which we will correct before we submit. And yes, if you're wondering, did it cost me more to write the report?
Yeah.
I was finding, I was looking at
It's kind of-
After the first year, it will actually be quite quick, but I actually asked Liz the same question. She's like, I don't know, how fast can you type?
I move that we accept the revisions to the LCAP, to include the federal addendum to include Title III.
Thank you.
Second.
That's a good summary.
Trustee Brownell. Aye. Trustee Wright.
Aye.
Trustee Ross.
Aye.
Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Trustee Fred.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Review of action items, tasking and calendar.
Okay, so our next meeting, if you recall, it's a little bit later in April, so it is April 17th. That is because President Friend and myself will be representing our local area at the CSBA conference, which is called Coast to Coast in Washington, DC. And we look forward to bringing back a lot of great information at that meeting, and some insight around our next steps in federal education funding, which will be great. So they still haven't given us they've given us kind of a skeleton agenda, but it will be really interesting to see all that they are being able to offer and really give us that insight and that navigation and advocacy for small school districts in particular.
When is the next CPR?
Oh,
It's always the first Wednesday.
Oh, and is anybody scheduled to go?
Yes, they're all scheduled.
They're all scheduled.
No, but is anybody scheduled from here to go?
Every board member.
I went I've been the last 2 months.
Well, I know that, but we've already scheduled everybody. That's fine if you go more than once, but I mean, somebody.
Scheduled next.
I am.
You are.
oh, there we go. Perfect.
Do you want to arm wrestle me to go?
You can both go.
Yeah, we can both go. It'll be fun.
And the winner is.
So is that like the April 2nd or 3rd?
It's the
Does that
3rd.
matter? Okay, great.
Who's scheduled to go in May?
I think I am.
Oh, yeah, or is it
Anything
me?
else?
No, I don't have anything
Let's
else.
see.
We're in the process of looking at our Teacher of the Year and Classified Member of the Year. That will be announced in our May meeting. Great. And at our next meeting, we'll be bringing forward the CEF and CESD plaque nominees.
nice.
We did meet with their representatives as well as ours, and have the names for the next meeting.
Nice. All right. Nothing else, and we are adjourned.
That's August.